When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Review Around with John Pollock and Wai Ting, the A-Team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Review Around for Monday night, download a Tuesday morning from the Fight Network site. It's Review Around for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
It is Review Raw.
Yeah.
Are you Wai?
I am.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Wow, it's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you as well, Wai.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I missed your Carlsberg shirt.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what have you been up to?
You know,
Yeah.
taking it easy.
Just taking it easy, eh? Just a few weeks of just not much going on in your life?
Well, I had a child.
Okay. What else?
And I got Spotify.
Wow, tell me about that.
Well,
Wow,
it's incredible because I had been using my old iPhone for so long to carry so much of my music.
Yeah.
And finally made the transition to Spotify. It's been incredible.
It sounds like a life-changing decision that you've made.
It's pretty nuts, Wai. How easy it is to download songs on Spotify.
I know.
And you know what I really love?
What's that?
It's the song facts. That you can listen to a
Yeah.
song and there's just facts coming up on the song.
From Genius.
Yes.
Genius.com.
It's a whole new appreciation for songs.
It's really wonderful. Yeah. I mean, some people, I don't know if they're ready necessarily. Like, personally, I'm not ready for that type of commitment. What is it, $9.99 a month?
Well, my wife had it, and then to add me on, it was only an extra $5 a month.
Oh, okay.
So it's like we're paying $15 a month now.
But still, that's quite a commitment. You might end up with Spotify for like the next 18 years.
I'm never getting rid of it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I will admit that one of the songs I have is "Stitches" by Shawn Mendes, Canada's own Shawn Mendes.
Okay.
And the facts are coming up on Stitches, like the song is about getting over a difficult relationship. But in real life, Shawn Mendes said that he's never been hurt by heartbreak. And then it goes on to say, Shawn Mendes is from Ontario in Canada. In Canada, everyone has medical insurance. So if they need stitches, it will not... Like, these are all the facts you learn from this song, and it's incredible.
Yeah. Spotify is great.
Yes. And having a child is great too, Wai.
Is that not bad?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we talked about it already.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it. You can download the audio version of it for the full review. What we did not talk about, though, first of all, is congratulations. And I actually got a gift for you and little Max Pollock.
Oh, my
gosh.
gosh.
That I wanted to present to you on the video version right now.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we're on the video version. If you tuned in. Oh, this
Nothing
is...
special, but please.
Oh.
Please open it up for the world to see.
I know where this is from Bang On.
Yes, it is.
So what could you possibly have got?
It is from Bang On. Shout-outs to Bang On, our favorite T-shirt company in Canada.
I used to go to this place all the time, and I haven't gone there in years. Oh, my goodness.
Hold it up for the camera, please.
I need to look at it for... It's a onesie. I'm a John Pollock guy. That's awesome, Wai.
And that would actually make real sense.
See,
I will be giving it to an actual John Pollock guy. Somebody made by John Pollock.
I guess he is.
Yeah.
Oh. You know, you could get an adult version of this now. For me, where I could have a matching one with my child.
Everybody can get an adult version of this, of course, at prowrestlingtees.com/law. I don't believe you can get the onesie, unfortunately. That's a custom order. But
I have to take a photo this way.
yeah, that'll go on your Instagram.
It can go on my Instagram.
Which is at...
I tried this experiment where I got Instagram and I thought, how many followers can I get without plugging it anywhere? I didn't mention it on any show. I mentioned it nowhere. Not that many was the answer. So it's just been existing. I'm not big into Instagram, to be honest, but it's I am John Pollock for those that are listening and want to see the onesie.
At I am John Pollock on Instagram. He's actually had this for months, but hasn't told anybody. I don't know if you know. Like, I see you do a lot of like selfie videos though on Instagram.
Yeah, and I see that you leave me your stupid comments on them. I don't know what to do on Instagram.
Who makes selfie videos on Instagram?
Lots of people do.
Like who?
my question is, why is anyone going to go to my Instagram? It's not for my photos. At most, I can come up with a minute video of some fight predictions. I don't know. I did it once.
Photos,
and then you
is what
scarred me from that with your filter joke.
Oh
I was
my
like,
God! It wasn't a joke. It was an actual suggestion.
No,
that would have made your predictions.
Have I done one since? No.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you were it for me.
Oh, anyway, Raw review. Let's talk about that.
All right. I got to remember how this goes. Did anything happen the last 2 weeks? What do you think Kurt's secret's going to be?
I don't know.
I won't play along. I'm all up to date.
Yeah,
I know what's going on, Wai.
You probably know this stuff way better than any of us.
Well, off the top, from Washington, D.C., by the way, the Verizon Center, we had a recap off the top of Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns' match from last week with Strowman's run-in. So clearly positioning this as the A story, which was, I feel, notable because the Kurt reveal was not the recap off the top, which to me felt like the big thing last week.
I suppose so, but I guess they're not promoting that as the main event of the paper.
Jordan doesn't have a main program.
Yeah.
He's kind of a new character, but not in the upper mix. Kurt Angle, though, comes out to start the show, and he mentions how he's been distracted with this revelation last week that Jason Jordan is his son, which this audience in Washington booed. He felt, though, he made the right decision when he saw his son walk down the aisle last week, and he's going to have his first match on Raw tonight, and says he's just giving him a chance, but he's got to do it himself in the ring. And then he goes to make a SummerSlam announcement for the Universal title when he is interrupted by Braun Strowman, who was clearly not optimistic about what that announcement was going to be, and says that Angle better be announcing his name because unlike Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe, he won his match at Great Balls of Fire, which is a hell of an argument.
Yeah.
These guys are all coming off losses. What is this, UFC? And he says from there that he doesn't fear Brock Lesnar. Lesnar fears him, and he's going to break Lesnar in half at SummerSlam. That prompts Joe to come out, and he says he nearly put Lesnar to sleep at Great Balls of Fire. He, too, doesn't fear Lesnar or Strowman. And Joe essentially tells Kurt Angle to rebook the same 2 matches from Great Balls of Fire at SummerSlam. So Booker Joe will probably not be thriving with these creative ideas of just doing a refresh or a redo of Great Balls of Fire. So Reigns comes out, and he tells Joe and Strowman they haven't done anything yet. And he lists all of his titles he's won, all of his accolades in the last 5 years. He says, I won the Royal Rumble in Philly, and boy, it was loud that night, as a knock at the Battleground crowd from Sunday night. And he's headlined WrestleMania the last 3 years, including retiring The Undertaker this year, and says, what have you guys done? And they just stood there. These 2 guys just stood there. Looked pretty foolish.
I mean, I guess he's kind of true.
I mean, I would just
what would you do?
Well, I mean,
if you were them.
Joe could say, I've been doing this a hell of a lot longer than you have. I had a 5-star match with Kenta Kobashi. How about you?
Yeah, I don't think they would mention that.
No, probably not. From there, they tease physicality. But Angle says he has changed his mind again. So he's doing a Vince McMahon gimmick. And he makes a fatal 4-way match for SummerSlam. Now, before we get into the physicality here, this was definitely the direction you sensed they were going. This was confirmation of the match. It should be a pretty good match, the 4 of them.
I think so.
I guess this depends on your love or hatred of multiple person matches. But these are 4 fairly protected guys and all really solid big men that should have a pretty physical match at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I think all 4 are pretty strong characters. I think the fact that it's a 4-way kind of takes away maybe the prestige of it. You know what I mean? I think a one-on-one match, especially for a show like SummerSlam.
And it's one fall to a finish.
Especially for a show like SummerSlam, I think, you know, the most memorable matches are always one-on-one matches. You know, when you make it a multi-man match, it kind of makes it seem like it's a stepping stone to something bigger down the road, some type of settling of a feud down the road. But it's also a way for them to actually get the title off of Brock without them pinning Brock.
Do you think they will?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think
and put it on who?
I think Joe.
Wow.
I think it's time for Joe to get it for sure. But anyway, we'll see. But I want to talk about the actual segment itself. Like it's been really interesting to study kind of the babyface heel dynamics of all the characters in recent weeks. And how each crowd tends to take them, but how also they script these guys. And I found like Braun and Joe here were very much like cutting babyface promos. And Roman essentially came out and was gloating about all of his accomplishments, including the line about reminding us that he retired Taker, which couldn't have been designed to do anything but to elicit boos. So, I mean, I think people assume that he fully turned heel at Great Balls of Fire. I don't think he did, despite him almost killing a man. I don't think it was a full heel turn at all. But on certain
we all
nights,
have those moments of rage.
yeah, but on certain nights it seems more like a full heel turn than others, and I thought this was one of those nights.
I think they like having him in this role where he you can position him almost in either slot. He can work heels or baby faces. It doesn't matter. He's kind of he's almost on an island on Raw, and I don't think they run from the boos. In fact, they elicit them with the lines, and I think it works for him. I have no issue with the Roman character at the moment.
It works for him. Now, like in the match itself, who do you see? Like, do you see anybody but Roman getting booed in that match?
Anyone but Roman getting booed?
Yeah. Like, to me, the rest of the three are all baby faces.
I feel they're going to be most for Braun in the match.
Really? More than Brock?
I don't know. I don't know how the Brooklyn crowd will react.
Like, Brooklyn will love Samoa Joe.
I feel Braun is going to be really popular with that crowd in particular. You're somewhat of your that's a hardcore base in Brooklyn for SummerSlam. I feel Braun is the one that if you were to put do a title switch, he would get the biggest reaction for a win.
I have to think it would be Samoa Joe with that crowd. I mean, Ring of Honor would run New York a lot, and I don't know. I sense that the top babyface role going to Joe.
Well, if we can get a decibel counter inside the Barclays Center, we can measure the response of each. It's going to be a very heated match.
It will be.
In a month's time. So Joe then yells at Angle, and Strowman says he's only interested in piling up bodies, and Reigns then starts to fight with them. All three get physical. Security runs out, which was the highlight. First, there was this security guy that looked like a mini Will Ospreay that got tossed through the ropes, and then in the highlight of life, Braun took a security guard and launched him over the top rope, and he just crashed to the floor. This was the most violent bump of the night. This was unbelievable.
Well, I mean, you want to get noticed, I guess, if you're one of those guys.
Graves later said that Strowman was working on entering the Olympics in the sport of human tossing. This was unbelievable. This
he used
toss.
To do like shot put or something? Is that him?
Braun?
Yeah. Am I thinking of somebody else?
I don't think Braun was shot put. Braun was like a strong man.
Yeah.
As he showcased here.
Okay.
But anyway, just a chaotic scene. Guys from the locker room ran out. Reigns speared Strowman. They fought off the guys in the ring, and Strowman ended up hitting a power slam to Reigns to end the segment. And this is the last we would see of these three on the show, but we can look ahead to next week. They are doing a three-way with these three, and Brock is also on next week's show, but they did not mention him. So that is, I believe Brock's on next week's show. Anyway, three-way next week. In Pittsburgh. Michael Cole says that for the first time in 3 years, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins are going to team up, which is quite the philosophical differences they have on Raw and SmackDown. On SmackDown, we just did a title change at a house show to stress the importance. And on Raw, these two just spent the weekend teaming up. So house shows mean a lot, except when they don't. Yeah. Elias Sampson was in the ring to sing and says he hurt one of his babies last week in reference to his guitar, but got a new one. Big We Want Balor chant, and he dedicates his song to Finn. And the song did get some heat, and then Balor's theme cut it off. And we got a no disqualification match between these two, which was announced last week.
I kind of wanted to hear more of the song. This song reminded me of that song Glycerin by Bush.
Oh, boy.
You remember that?
I do.
Yeah,
they had Machine Head.
Bush X.
Yes. Yeah. I had, what was their next out? Razor Blade Suitcase.
Yeah. Yeah, Swallowed. Big Shiny Tunes too. Great song.
Bush.
You know Bush, Sam? Oh, you do? Oh, wow.
They didn't last too long. They had a good run.
Dude, the dude married Gwen Stefani.
And then they separated.
Yeah, he separated, yeah.
They had a good run.
Yes. All right.
Anyway, I was going to make a joke, but I'm trying to piece it together. I still got ring rust. So Finn tosses his jacket at Samson at the start, and Michael Cole says this match, after last week where blood was spewed from the head of Finn Balor, and they've gone to the lengths of this stipulation, he said, this match is all about hashtag no DQ match. They've worked towards a hashtag of their own. Mm-hmm. Balor also had his left shoulder all taped up, which he also had on the house shows over the weekend. So I don't know if that was legitimate or just to sell the effects of the guitar shot from last week. But always concerning.
I mean, it looked like a real guitar to me, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was legit.
So they went to the floor. Balor was in control. It's at this point, just randomly in the middle of the match, they had this picture-in-picture replay of the guitar shot from last week, which kind of in my head was one of those like crossing the axis things where it's like I'm trained to watch a replay that happened moments ago, and suddenly you're taking me a week back into the past in the middle of the match with a picture-in-picture, and it was jarring to me.
Interesting. Okay. So they shouldn't do it again?
I can't recall them just in the middle of a match doing a split screen to something that happened a week ago that we all were aware of at the start of the match when they replayed it. Balor came back. He attacked Samson in the ribs. He took a chair but was stopped with a boot to the gut. Samson then takes a chair and hits him in the back and the shoulder area. He worked over the shoulder throughout. We also had 2 commercial breaks for this match. They got a lot of time. Chair was set up in the corner. Samson got reversed and sent into the chair. Balor then trapped him in the ring skirt, delivering knees. And then Samson draped down, and Cole just announced that Samson has disappeared.
Yeah.
Balor attacked with the chair and repeated. I don't know why I find some of this so funny.
Why did you?
I've gone on very little sleep, so I was amused by many things in this match.
I didn't really have much to say about that.
Samson just slumping down.
Yeah.
It was just comical to me. Balor's attacking him with everything, hit a baseball slide drop kick in the corner, and then climbed to the top, hit the coup de grace, but the lights went out, and after 18 minutes, Bray Wyatt shows up, hits him with the Sister Abigail, and Samson crawls on top for the win. And this was a rare opportunity where we heard Elias Sampson's theme song.
Oh.
Because he's always in the ring.
I guess
start his segment, and he never wins. So
I mean, he has won in the past.
Well, I'm sure it's not the first time we've heard it, but a rare time we've heard it. When this music came on, it was not recognizable to me.
Right, okay. I thought Samson showed a lot of aggression, as I'm sure he was instructed to do. And I didn't think he looked so bad, but the match
was much better than their match, their previous match on TV.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. It was very hard hitting. The finish, I think, was very telegraphed. Because of the Wyatt interaction from last week. I think everybody was expecting it. Overall, I thought it was just okay.
It was long.
It was
2
long.
segments.
There were a lot of long matches. And I don't know if this feud necessarily had the interest to carry, three segments or however much. And I think everybody was just waiting for that Bray run-in. I look forward to, some of the craziness and the backstage and, the, haunted house types of things that they'll get into.
I'm going to isolate this clip and play it back for you in a few weeks when we get some of the craziness.
Well, when you think of Finn Balor and you think of Bray Wyatt, what else can you expect? That's
Oh, I know. I'm not looking forward to it.
Well,
there is no track record this year of success in that field.
It is true, but the potential is there, and I think that's my hope right now. Because, I would say the start of this feud, there hasn't been that much creativity shown thus yet,
And where does Elias go?
The pre-show, probably.
He just won in this big match.
Yeah, but he was not the focus at all.
Well, afterwards, Wyatt did a spider walk over and just leaned over Balor, told him to follow the buzzards. Bayley was backstage. At first, I thought this was real, but it was a Sonic ad with the Hardys.
Oh, you got this in Canada too?
Yes.
Because I watched the American feed, but yeah.
So Bayley is talking about a big return that everyone is still talking about and says you're never sure when something you love will come back. And Matt and Jeff are there, assuming she's just flattering them. But Bayley is not talking about the Hardys' return. No, she's talking about something way bigger. The Sonic Pretzel Dog is back. And then Bayley says, "What do you think I was talking about? Aw, looks like someone could use a hug. Bring it in." And millions of people put down their remote and went to go buy the Sonic Pretzel Dog, which sounds horrific.
I think these are so embarrassing, you know? Like this was...
I thought Enzo and Cass did a...
Did they?
That was a KFC one, I think.
I mean, these are on the level of their Snickers ads that weren't very good, on the level of like the Natalia Subway thing. You remember that?
That was awful.
These are all really bad. And I mean, I don't know what else you expect because like clearly they do this probably like that afternoon. Like it comes across like there's very little care put into these. And I don't know. If I'm Sonic, like,
what if you had
happy with this?
What if you had Jack Gallagher just wandering around the locker room, putting people in the pretzel hold, and then he finally meets his match, and it's Cass dressed as a pretzel dog.
I feel like
I feel that idea would get greenlit in a second.
I feel like I would give the same reaction to that as I probably gave to this one.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Sonic are clearly happy. They have been part of these this advertising for years now.
Yeah, I guess so.
They're all on board.
Yeah. But do you think the Hardys are happy doing this?
Oh, you know, they had the perfect one when they were doing those Hardys commercials, remember?
You're right.
And now you got the team back and they're not around.
Yeah.
The SummerSlam theme song is Go For Broke by Machine Gun Kelly featuring James Arthur, which would have taken me 5 seconds to add on Spotify. I did not, because I know this is now the song I will hate this summer.
Yeah.
How did you watch Battleground?
I watched bits and pieces as we discussed earlier. Yeah.
By 7:20 p.m. on the kickoff show, that Imagine Dragons song was a drill going into my head.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm not even saying bad songs, but the repeats that they have, like, you must have heard that song, I'm not exaggerating, 35 to 40 times. And I think I'm being conservative on that 4-hour broadcast.
Right.
Anyway, Michael Cole had the transition of all transitions, saying, going from the Go For Broke song, "Ladies and gentlemen, our general manager, Kurt Angle, said, 'What the heck? I'm going to go for broke,' and announced he has a son." And we got a video package recapping last week's big reveal of Jason Jordan. And they also recapped the interview that they had with Renee last week. So Renee, who was all over Raw, to the point that I'm wondering whose child she is on this show.
SmackDowns or Raws?
Yeah. Maybe
she's been on Raw before, but this felt like a lot.
They did
right.
they did backstage interviews like no one's business on this show.
It almost felt like she was on more than Charlie, or just as much.
She was on way more than Charlie.
Huh.
Charlie had, I think, 2 segments. Renee must have had 6 or 7. She was
that much.
She did multiple interviews. I mean, they interviewed both halves of Jason Jordan and Kurt Hawkins.
Well, she's not working as much on Tuesdays now. So.
No, which Kevin Owens reminded her all over, well, a special edition of Talking Smack. So Renee's with Kurt and reveals that Jordan will face Kurt Hawkins tonight. And he says he's got butterflies in his stomach, but he's got confidence in Jordan. And then Emma walks in and wants to know when there's going to be some focus placed upon her, because she started the women's revolution. And now Bayley and Sasha have bypassed her. So she says, maybe I'll just start dating your son. And the crowd goes, ooh.
Yeah, could that be a jab at...
Wouldn't Kurt be happy? I mean, maybe she's not the most pleasant woman, but Jason could do worse, a lot worse.
Yeah, but I mean, the insinuation is that this woman is simply going through his son to get a better spot. She's using him.
Oh, well.
But I mean, could this not be seen as a jab at Triple H?
Oh, I guess, in a roundabout way.
I mean, obviously it's not.
Well, Kurt says, Kurt's response was great. Okay, Emma, you have every right to prove yourself in the WWE. To go prove yourself. I was proof positive that he needed a retake.
He had some rough moments, especially in that opening segment. But again, like I said this last week, I feel weird about making fun of his speech because I don't know if it's related to his drug issues. You know what I mean?
He's in a role where his role is to talk.
Yeah, I know.
And I mean, I don't know if mispronunciation. I don't know.
I don't know either. But he didn't have this earlier in his life. He didn't have this in his earlier run. I
would like to go back, actually. We should review an old show with Kurt.
We watched clips of him from, like,
I'm saying the WWE. Like, maybe this was something he did in the WWF.
He had no problem saying WWE in the past.
Two W's together for the best of us are tough. Like, let's be honest.
Really
a lot of us raced through it.
When they changed it from WWF, they really should have just dropped the F. WFF. World Wrestling
Imagine if Kurt had to plug websites in the 90s. I want everyone to go to www.wwe.com.
Maybe he's just a big ECW fan and just like thinks that's how you pronounce W.
Oh, man.
EC-dub. So we're terrible people. What if like this is like a legit health problem?
Wait, like
I feel really bad.
I'm sorry. He said every right to prove yourself. I'm going to point that out.
All right.
So he makes a match between Emma and Nia Jax for later tonight.
Yeah.
Enzo and his tan came out, and Corey says, "Get your thoughts out now," because he's about to talk nonstop for the next 2 to 3 minutes. And that's what he did. He says, the things that drive him drive Cass crazy. He's got a full tank of passion, and the key to start his engine is you, the people. And Cass's tank is running on empty, and says this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon, and says, to quote Drake, he's like the finish line, and he can't wait to run into him. Now, isn't the line, "You're like the fucking finish line"?
I don't know. I don't know that.
Come on.
I don't know that Drake song.
Straight scheming.
Oh, did you look that up on Spotify?
I might have been a fact. Look at Braden
Check
here.
the Genius.
Featuring Rick Ross and French Montana.
Wow. Look at this music expert all of a sudden.
Dude, Spotify. I got it all now.
All right.
Then we got a very bizarre match. Not that bizarre. And it was presented to us by Sonic. Enzo took on Cass for whatever reason. Cass tossed Enzo around the ring. Enzo tried for a sleeper and gets slammed to the mat. Corey says there is no question who is going to win this match. The crowd chanted "Casshole." Cass then starts singing the Enzo Amore chant, which did pick up. The audience continued this. Cass repeatedly rams the back of Enzo's head into the turnbuckle, stomps him. Graves gives up and says, "You can't admire stupidity," when Cole's trying to defend Enzo standing up for himself. Cass hits a running boot for the win in 3:37 as Booker says, "Have mercy on the little guy." Cass continues his attack after the match until the Big Show shows up. Cass holds up Enzo as a shield and then tosses him a Big Show to sucker shot. Big Show hits the Empire elbow twice. This beatdown went on forever, and this crowd did not care. And there's a reason for that, because you had two baby faces here. One that, say what you will about Enzo, and you can come up with all these reasons that he's got a ceiling. The guy was over, and they seem bound and determined to make him come off as so ineffective and just beating the hell out of this guy that they are forcing this audience to just, why would we get behind this guy? He's just a rag doll. And you had no sympathy for either babyface in this scenario, nor hatred for Cass, because you're beating up two people that you've told us mean nothing. And it led to a dead post-match beatdown.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming the intent behind all this is to draw sympathy for Enzo, for somebody who just constantly gets beaten up but gets back up and gets beaten up again. But at what point, you know, even as an Enzo fan...
When do audiences get behind losers? That's what Enzo feels like. He doesn't have any comeback. He doesn't have any hope spot.
Daniel Bryan, but, I mean, that's hardly what this is, you know? That's hardly Enzo Amore, right? And Daniel Bryan didn't get beaten up like this.
He got beaten up routinely, and that was not a positive in that build. That's a very much rose-colored glasses view of Daniel Bryan, when at the time, they were leaving him for dead, and he got over in spite of some of the scenarios he was put in. And I just look at Enzo, that there is a fraction of guys in this company that can talk at his level. And I don't care how small he is.
Yeah.
He is over to this crowd, and he will not be in 2 months after this.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. This guy will be Ty Dillinger.
So, but the thing is, you do the breakup, you do have to do a feud between the two. And I suppose, I assume, in their minds, they know they have to do a feud, but they also know that they can't have a 50-50 match between Enzo and Cass. Yeah. But I guess in this case, they're not even willing to give a...
It's not a feud.
95-5 match.
No.
You know what I mean?
Nothing.
Which is unfortunate. And I don't even understand really the Big Show's role in all this, because I know is supposed to be the equalizer, but now we've seen even the Big Show plus Enzo is no match for Big Cass. So,
and SummerSlam feels a long way to build to Cass and Big Show. That feels like a kickoff match.
Yeah, it hardly, I think, inspires something that deserves a spot on that show. Which kind of tells me that they should be working towards more than that. You know,
it's almost like you have to hotshot something like Big Show putting his career on the line here.
Okay, yeah, that would be big enough.
That's how far you have to dig to really have some ammunition here.
But again, that's not the story. The story is Enzo. So what could they be leading towards? Like a handicap match? That won't help anybody.
2-on-1 against the heel.
Yeah. So I'm just not really sure what they are trying to build towards with this type of build.
Renee interviewed Alexa Bliss in the back. She isn't worried about SummerSlam, and tonight she's going to watch a friendship dissolve between Bayley and Sasha, who she has dubbed Team Gag Reflex. Sasha thinks she's the best at everything, but Sasha's ego cannot handle watching SummerSlam at home on the WWE Network, and envisions Bayley losing tonight and then going home and eating Twinkies with her deflated Bayley buddies. And she is the real winner of tonight's #1 contender match. Emma and Nia Jax had a match. Jax splashed her in the corner, hit an elbow drop, and then a running somersault senton in 1:24.
Yeah, and that she used as a new finish, yeah.
So where do you see...
Emma?
Let's talk about this more after the #1 contenders match. Charlie was in the back with her guest at this time, Akira Tozawa, whose shoulder was taped. Charlie, not even pretending anyone is aware of what this guy is up to, said, "For those not aware, let's remind them why your shoulder is injured." And we went back to the attack from last week, and Tozawa avenging this the following night by beating Arya Daivari, but wants another match tonight because there was a post-match attack. Mm-hmm. Titus walks in and says that Tozawa's shoulder is a liability, and says that due to his health, he has gone to Kurt Angle and the medical staff and had his match with Daivari canceled tonight. Tozawa is furious. And then Tozawa storms from the back towards the gorilla position, and we got a walk and talk backstage at Raw.
We did.
So maybe Tommy Shlami's been hired by Raw.
Who?
With Aaron Sorkin. He was Aaron Sorkin's main director.
Okay.
I've been watching.
Was I supposed to have known that?
If you're a West Wing fan, or
I'm not.
Okay. Anyway, was it just me, Wai? Do you feel this is Tozawa's natural voice, or do you feel that he is?
No, he's speaking
He's going out of his way
language.
to sound like a foreigner that is struggling with English, and it sounds very awkward to me.
I don't know if it's that. I think he's trying to make a real effort to speak English, and I think they're giving him that space to.
See, I feel the opposite.
perform.
I feel his English is probably better than this portrayal is.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure.
He's
about
speaking
that.
in like these quick, sound bites that are just. It just sounds like play a foreigner that can barely speak English.
Are you suggesting that he's faking that accent?
I'm asking if you think that.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I really don't think so. I've seen him talk on .com interviews and things like that. I mean, this sounds like how he sounds there. And I think they're simply giving him the space to speak English here. They didn't really allow him to talk in previous weeks, but here he spoke a lot.
Yeah.
And I would say, that sounds like a positive, but the dude doesn't sound cool when he came out to the ring afterwards and he's like, Daivari, I want you to fight me. He sounded like a real, kind of like a dork. You know what I mean? So
That's the 205 Live division.
It's kind of like a weird balance where, like, yes, you need to practice to cut promos in English. Him and Nakamura, they need to get experience speaking English on TV, but, like, they can't be exposed as just, like, these dorks, you know what I mean? So it's a fine balance.
I think it was you that said the biggest hiring they could have is Gato.
To cut promos.
Just for promos.
I thought he was great. Yeah.
God forbid he booked too.
Yeah.
Tozawa is out here and he calls out Daivari. So are we to believe that a guy could override Kurt Angle and the medical staff if they really wanted to have a match? Because that's what Tozawa kind of did here. So
pretty much,
Daniel Bryan just needs to say, all right, tough, I'm walking to the ring at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Out comes Neville. And he takes credit for Tozawa's injury and his shattered confidence, and that Tozawa's a joke and a shell of his former self, which is quite the transformation in 6 days. Tozawa attacks Neville, climbs to the top and hits his senton, but injures his shoulder in the process, so Daivari runs in, stomping down on Tozawa, and then hits his hammerlock clothesline to Tozawa and Neville.
Yeah.
So Daivari is now the new cruiserweight flavor of the month.
I would say flavor of the week because they announced the match with him and Neville next week, which was surprising.
No, that's tomorrow night.
Sorry, tomorrow. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, tomorrow. This was surprising because Daivari has typically been very much like on the bottom rung of the 205 Live ladder and didn't seem to have any aspirations of pushing him to that main event slot. I still don't think they do. I think tomorrow will just be a 1 week thing.
Yeah, and I also don't like the idea, especially on 205 Live, where you're fighting the crowds anyway, to throw in two heels with one another. Where I think that you're almost forcing the audience to just not be engaged.
I suppose at this point, maybe they're just running out of opponents for Neville, and they just needed another match.
Bayley's backstage, and Sasha walked up and called Bliss a little troll for what she said about them, and Bayley said not to listen to her. They're going to be friends after tonight no matter what happens. Sasha says she can't wait to become a 4-time women's champion. And Bayley says, you should focus on tonight's match. And Sasha's put off by this, and they agree to go out there and tear down the house with Sasha acting cocky.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of these? What did you think of this segment and the Alexa segment from earlier?
I thought Alexa had a good interview. Bayley sounded much more like a normal human being here.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the seeds being planted with Sasha. I think that all three women sounded more just with a natural kind of. You didn't.
I didn't think so. Like I think both felt like they were reading, reading something that they were memorizing.
I didn't have as much a problem with these three at least.
Yeah, but like to me, it just like it felt so much like they were reading words rather than like acting out a scene onto themselves. And I know that's how they do TV. Maybe there's no other way around it. But there has to be a way around it. Right?
Well, we've learned that unscripted programming is not a priority.
But even do you think they would have done this with bullet points?
Unlikely.
So what do you not think they even trust their performers to do bullet point stuff? Or I guess
very few of them.
I guess maybe these two they don't.
I don't think so.
Because this just felt so like kind of rehearsed to me.
Just seeing enough of these characters, like it feels like they're pretty structured. And I think you can see the ones that do have that latitude, or the ones that go outside of the box. Ones like a Kevin Owens is an extreme example, but that come across much more natural, and you can see that they have a bit more latitude. And you could argue whether it's on the performers or not, if they're the ones that should be just taking that risk and throwing in some stuff.
I think Alex mentioned last week that like Angle was somebody who would ask for words to be meticulously scripted.
Yes.
So, maybe that's the case with these two too. But like, I'll say like these two come across like they're reading a lot more than, maybe even a Kurt Angle from back in the day.
We just put up the full interview with Justin Roberts, and in his book, I mean, it is painful to hear some of the stories where someone like Justin Roberts, who is the ring announcer, was micromanaged to death, to the point that if he was rolling R's or emphasizing The Rock, he was told, stop that. You're sounding too excited. We want you to just read the name. And then, I mean, it was damned if you do, damned if you don't. It would be like he would have nothing in front of him. And if he ad-libbed something, he would get heat for it. And then if he went with the script, if there was a problem with the script, he would get it as well. And it was just, it all culminated in this amazing story at the end of the book, which isn't a huge story, so I can share it, where it's the night he's coming backstage, and Vince is just on all of these crazy words. Like, this book emphasizes how this guy's nuts about every word. So Justin Roberts ends the show like he always does, saying, "Thank you for coming to Raw. Drive home safely." And Vince just says to him after, "Should tell them to travel home safely. Not everybody drives." And that was Justin Roberts' final night, because moments later he was told that they were not offering him a new contract or whatever, and he was released. And his final conversation with Vince McMahon was about, don't tell them to drive home safely because not everybody drives.
Yeah, wow.
This,
Well, obviously,
of all the things going on at Raw, that was a priority, to take Justin Roberts aside. So when you hear these crazy stories, like, they exist, like insanity about words and structure, and you say this and you don't say this, and these are banned words because a guy wakes up and he hates a word one morning.
Yeah.
Like, that is the reality.
Yes. And I feel like if it was up to Vince, he would want everybody to know that before he hired them. You know what I mean? Like, I think we all know that would be a miserable place to try to be creative and to try to work. And wrestling attracts a lot of creative people. But I think Vince McMahon only, for the most part, seems to, at least for a role like that, probably wants to hire somebody to only execute what he wants to his exact whim. And it's a tough role, but I'm assuming that anybody who takes that job now, hopefully they're aware of that.
It's just amazing that it's Vince McMahon, who was one of the most dynamic broadcasters the company ever had. I mean, that was he wants everyone to be the antithesis of what he was in the 80s and 90s.
You think so?
He wants a toned, look at the announcers they hire.
Yeah.
I mean, Mauro Ranallo is the exception to the norm. And even him, they wanted him to bring things down. And it's like, they don't want even a ring announcer that's going to emphasize part of a name. And it's just, I don't know. It's a whole discussion we can have.
What a stressful job that seems like.
From there, we got another Sonic-sponsored video of the Vince McMahon Legacy segment featuring Shane McMahon's return from a year and a half ago. Without any context, just that was a clip that Sonic sponsored. I thought for sure this was going to be a mention of the helicopter crash, but there was no mention of that either on the pay-per-view or on Raw, which, do you think they'll even bring that up on SmackDown?
If Shane makes an appearance on SmackDown, which he doesn't always, but if he does, I could see them briefly mentioning it. But I mean,
it's a pretty incredible story.
No, but I would assume.
Thankfully, no one was hurt.
I would assume for them, like, also one that was kind of traumatic and maybe something that they didn't think was, maybe they thought was too personal to bring up. Shane's also not really a part of the show. I don't know why they chose this clip.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
The pretzel dog, it's got to have. I don't know what the tie-in was.
I don't know.
Renee interviews Jason Jordan. He is grateful for the opportunity. He knows that just like Tupac, all eyes are on him for his first match after finding out that Kurt is his biological father. And he admits that he has butterflies. And Renee laughs because Kurt said the exact same thing. Like father, like son.
Yeah. These, like, they're playing this up so, like, over the top, like, sweet. Like, Kurt, they're making Kurt, like, give these reactions like, I'm so proud of my son. And they're making Jordan like, I'm so proud to be Kurt Angle's son. That, like, I feel like it has no direction to go but some type of heel turn or some type of breakup, you know what I mean? And so, like, if it is leading up to a Jason Jordan, maybe Jason Jordan, Corey Graves heel turn, I'm trying to, like, read into like Jason Jordan's performances here to see if there's a double meaning into like any of his words. You know,
can you imagine if they had a bloody Kurt Angle on the mat, Jason Jordan's tending to his father, and then Hunter comes from behind, lifts up the sledgehammer, Jason Jordan turns around, and you totally reenact the Stephanie Hunter.
What?
Not without kissing, but Hunter
What?
and Jason Jordan are working together to screw Angle out of this position. And Jordan, they've been scamming Kurt.
Yeah. I think it could very well lead to something like that. And
Like this has to end with Jordan turning on Kurt.
I feel like it does.
Or both going heel.
I feel like it does. And so, like, Angle going heel?
Either both or just Jordan. I think Kurt would be a much better heel than this babyface GM.
What sense would it make? Why would Angle have to go through this to turn heel? You know what I mean?
Oh, he's corrupted because of his son. He wants to favor his son. It's nepotism.
Okay, I guess so. But to me, like,
I personally prefer the just Jordan turns.
To me, I more buy into the idea that maybe this is all a ruse for Jason Jordan to somehow trick Kurt Angle.
I think 100% we're getting a DNA test down the road
Sure.
on Raw.
Okay, awesome. Tune in next week, you know? So I'm trying to interpret like these little promos from Jason Jordan to see if he's like trying to hide something or if they're trying to
this is so
to hint that.
Dude, he says, "I'm not a poet, but imagine you had one of the wildest dreams and you found out it was true. My hero growing up is my father."
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really sense anything from this, you know, leading to any type of sense of a heel turn, but
I just think it's so over the top.
With Jordan. Somebody on Twitter who went there live says this was booed really hard in the arena.
Well, Jordan's name was booed during the opening segment when Kurt brought him up.
Yeah, but I don't recall hearing much crowd noise during this, so I wonder if they turned it down. So crowd's clearly turning on.
I wonder how they react next week when they're in Pittsburgh, where Kurt is a local celebrity there. I mean, he is a big deal in Pittsburgh.
But I don't think that'll protect Jason Jordan from being booed because everybody watching knows that it's a work, right? So
did you hear what Kurt said about his performance last week? What he channeled?
No. What?
He did a Q&A, and he was asked, I guess, about his performance last week. And personally, I thought Kurt's performance was very good last week.
So too.
I thought he was all in. Yeah. There was no wink, wink. This is bullshit. Yeah. Like he was all in. I thought he was pretty good in his role.
Yeah. In his head, I'm sure somebody he might have been laughing. This is ridiculous, but
I don't think he was. I think he was.
Maybe not
into this.
Sure.
Considering other stuff he's done, he said he imagined what it would be like if his son Cody walked out on Raw and he saw him for the first time.
Wow.
And he said he was like getting choked up, like imagining seeing his son Cody for the first time.
That's pretty cool.
Like he was doing some serious method acting here.
Method acting, yeah.
So anyway, he finishes up his promo here saying that he's going to win his first match on Raw. Dean is in the locker room and Seth walks in and again says it's the first time in 24 hours since we've teamed up. And they need a game plan. Ambrose isn't interested in a game plan. Rollins says, well, you're an idiot. And Ambrose says, Rollins has 3 guys to worry about. I've got 4.
I thought that was a good line.
It was a good line.
Yeah, I thought it worked, told the story, and gave like a bit of an, oh, shit. He said that. Wow.
Bayley and Sasha Banks had a #1 contenders match. Bliss came out before the match began and came on commentary, but barely spoke during the match.
I was kind of underwhelmed by her on commentary. She didn't really showcase any personality.
I mean, I can't even really criticize because she was asked like 5 times, who would you prefer to face at SummerSlam?
They were feeding her a lot.
Yeah.
But she never took advantage. And
maybe they because during the second half of this match, I can't even recall her talking.
Yeah.
It was so non-existent. She kind of just sat there. Bayley was going for all these covers early on. Bliss says Bayley's a great athlete, but I've exposed her in so many different ways. They go to a break. Sasha's in control. Bayley then snaps her neck through the ropes for a 2 count. Sasha comes back, hits the running knees in the corner, backstab her into the bank statement, and then rolls her into the middle. This was when the crowd really got into things. Bayley rolled on top for a 2 count. Then, in a tribute to Yuji Nagata and Hiroshi Tanahashi, we had a slap fest between these two. I mean, this felt very G1 inspired as we went from slaps to forearm strikes. Bayley hit a Shining Wizard. Banks then hit her own Shining Wizard. Both are down. And Banks then comes off the turnbuckle, hits a frog splash. But Bayley, in kicking out from the frog splash, reversed on top to pin Sasha. Just kind of a strange way to win. It was like her it's not really the kind of spot that momentum would take you over, like a high cross would. But yeah, Bayley wins. Sasha then disappeared, and Bliss walked in, held the title up in front of Bayley, and tentatively, that's our women's title match for SummerSlam, even though you have two other players in Nia and Sasha that, I mean, because of the main event, I hope this doesn't become a four-way, but I don't know. I don't see them doing Nia and Sasha on their own. Unless you have a lot of time to fill.
It's a good question, but also one that you have to ask of the SmackDown roster too, where Becky and Charlotte are also two people that are kind of on their own, not doing anything.
No.
Maybe you somehow put those few together, but or maybe you don't, and maybe you simply have Sasha Nia. I guess it would kind of make sense, but I mean they still have enough time to build something out of it.
It's also a 4-hour show plus the kickoff, so you will have pretty much everyone booked on the show, everyone of consequence.
I thought it was important to note here, though, that like at the end of this match, you had Sasha and Bayley in the ring together, kind of just looking at each other for a long time, and the expectation would have been that Sasha would go and hug Bayley and congratulate her, but we didn't get that.
No,
Sasha simply left.
That was good to keep that kind of on the back burner.
I thought it was a good match. I mean, obviously these two have great chemistry, but like I have a friend who's just like trying to get like just recently gotten into women's wrestling because of Glow. And so like he ended up watching a lot of like Bayley matches. He's a big fan of Bayley. And, was just kind of raving about Bayley versus Sasha from Brooklyn. And so it just reminded me, wow, these two were a marquee rivalry in NXT. But here, like, this match hardly seems special at all.
Yeah, I mean, this is... Have they done the singles match on the main roster?
They must have. But I feel like this is still something that should be special. You know what I mean? Every time.
Well, yeah, I mean,
given the history
I think going back to WrestleMania, you assumed when they put the title on Bayley that this would end up being the SummerSlam match, but not exactly where we are at the moment. Renee interviewed Curt Hawkins backstage. It was weird to hear Curt Hawkins interviewed, but it made the Jordan match feel more than just a throwaway squash match. I didn't mind this, having both guys at least interviewed and make the match feel like there's a reason for this happening. There is...
Of course.
You're hearing Hawkins' reasoning to want to win this match as opposed to just, we come back from break and there's Curt in the ring.
I don't mind hearing from Curt Hawkins. I don't think he gets enough time to talk, even though he's just a comedy guy.
He says he doesn't care about Jason Jordan. He's going to ruin his Raw debut, and everyone will be talking about him. Jordan came out to the American Alpha theme song, which I'm glad they did not give him Kurt's theme. I thought they might. And I think that would have been a misstep.
Much?
Yes. I mean,
all this is already too much.
He's already supposed to be mini Kurt Angle, and I don't think he needs any more of that.
I thought he was going to do the Olympic Slam here.
Yeah, I hope they don't make him a carbon copy of Kurt.
Yeah, I suppose it depends what the intent is. Like, if the intent is to turn him heel, I think they need to go full on with that, Make him a mini Kurt Angle, and I guess try to get people to boo him. But I don't know. Maybe they're not trying to get people to boo him.
The only reason I would want to see any of Jordan mimicking Kurt would be if Kurt gets cleared to return. Because then you have the story of Jordan could beat Kurt with his own move.
Okay.
But
sure.
I feel that's not necessarily the direction. Anyway, this was quick. It was a minute 43. It was a lot of just slams by Jordan. Kurt's watching in the back. There was a belly-to-belly, and then Jordan fires up, spears him in the corner, lifts him into the air, into a neck breaker, and wins in a minute 43. So he looked good here, but very quick.
Was wrestling very aggressively. Kurt Angle was watching backstage. He looked a little generic alone, I'll say.
Kurt?
No, Jason Jordan.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't think I've seen him without Chad Gable since like an old NXT show where he just came out as Jason Jordan. And he's obviously much better now. But I don't know. I worry a little with the singles run from this guy.
I mean, I don't want to call him bland, but I mean, there are lots of people.
I will. He seems a little bland.
Well, I don't see it as so much of a negative because he's not all that different than how he was playing off of Chad Gable, but there was a unique kind of personality that the two had together, and the guy wasn't all big and boisterous, and that's a detriment on the main roster where I feel they do want that.
But I think visually, Gable and Jordan complemented each other really well. Jordan on his own, and maybe I think Gable on his own can maybe do a little better, but Jordan on his own just seems awfully generic to me at this point. Does he have a parrot on his tights?
A parrot?
Yeah, is that what that is? He's got like a little thing. It looked like a parrot to me.
I didn't notice,
no, you
but
didn't notice?
I'll watch for future.
Yes, please.
There is a movie coming out featuring Willie Nelson and Shawn Michaels called Pure Country, Pure Heart.
I'm going to get on that.
TJP and Tony Nese will take on Rich Swann and Cedric Alexander, and Neville takes on Daivari on 205 Live.
Are we going to watch this thing tomorrow? You have a child to take care of. You have a life to take. You have 2 lives now. Your own and your child's.
Oh, right.
Hoping you're
my own. Where's the second life?
No, I'm hoping you have to devote to. Are you going to sacrifice an hour of that time to watch this 205 Live next week?
Well,
tomorrow?
My viewing schedule has changed dramatically.
You're doing all the G1s too.
Yep. I'm caught up on everything.
I know. I can't believe it. Wow. I think you can probably.
I'm up a lot more now, and it provides a lot of extra time as well.
Like what is like? Have you changed a diaper with wrestling on in the background? You must have.
No.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
You fed the baby with wrestling on in the background.
Well, the child is 2 weeks old, so they're not really, eating pizza by this age. You know what I mean?
I just want to see it. I just want to see like the G1 New Japan World on in the background as John Pollock is taking care of his child. I think that would be like, that's a photo for Instagram right there.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a Nagata fan. So Charlie's in the ring and welcomes out the Revival, who say they're going to handle their own interview and tells her to leave. They dominated NXT. They're the future of the tag division on Raw. They beat the Hardys and said that they even heard that Cass ditched Enzo when he heard the Revival was coming back. Anderson and Gallows come out. Anderson says Washington, D.C. is a good brother town, and that appears to have been their babyface turn.
I guess so, eh? Because like they were portrayed as total baby faces here.
They were complete baby faces.
I mean, I feel like, given all the teams that there are, I think Gallows and Anderson maybe stand the best chance of being baby faces. But how about a little transition? How about a bit of a reason to cheer these guys?
Nothing. Which, I mean, when you look at obviously the Hardys you have as baby faces, and Sheamus and Cesaro, I don't really know what they are.
No, they're heels.
Are they heels?
They're total heels. Yes.
Okay.
They just feuded with the Hardys.
They did, but picture them against the Revival or Anderson and Gallows. I mean, who's the audience siding with there?
Well, that's why I feel like Gallows and Anderson should be baby faces, but there was no real transition whatsoever. I mean, to the point where now I'm still not sure what they are.
So Anderson and Gallows say everything the Revival has done, we did first. We beat up the New Day. We beat up the Hardys. They call them top nerds. And we have a match between the two teams. Sheamus and Cesaro are watching in the locker room. Wilder attacks Gallows, so Dawson can then attack him from behind, and Gallows fights both off. The Revival gets sent to the floor, go through a break. Gallows hit a splash on the mat to Dawson, super kick, and then they set up for the big boot of doom when Wilder stops with a knee to the back of Anderson. The Hardys come out to their music, which leads to Anderson and Gallows tossing the Revival out of the ring. They stare down the aisle at the Hardys, allowing the Revival to recover and return to attack them and hit Gallows with the Shatter Machine for the victory. And then the Hardys storm the ring, attacking the Revival. They hit the Poetry in Motion to Wilder, and then a twist of fate. Jeff goes for the Swanton, but Dash rolls to the floor and leaves with Dawson. So the focus is the Revival and the Hardys, and Anderson and Gallows just felt like the transition to get these two teams together.
And what is in store for Sheamus and Cesaro? Nothing right now?
You know, how many programs are we watching where it feels like the four-way is where they're going? Like, that's everything here. They're going to have to bring back that Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view.
I think the problem is that there appears to be a lack of clear focus of what the singular feud is. You know, instead, everybody seems like they're trying to...
I think the match everyone wants to see is the Hardys and the Revival, which is not your championship program.
No.
You've got to at least fit Sheamus and Cesaro in there.
Yes. It's a little unclear, and I think that's fine as long as I feel like there's a tease of like where they're headed. But
I'm fine if you're going to sort these out over the next month on television.
I guess
But
so.
you've got to get all these teams on SummerSlam in some at least the main three teams.
But to me, I'm looking for something for me to latch onto to keep my interest.
Yeah.
And I don't really have that right now. Beyond, the Revival versus the Hardys being like...
I hope that's saved for SummerSlam.
Yeah, which will probably be a good match. But like in terms of storyline, I think Sheamus and Cesaro are still really cold. I'd be somewhat interested in seeing what they do with Gallows and Anderson, but I don't know if they're doing anything with them after this.
The Miz Taraj was in the locker room, and Miz says that they are family, while Rollins and Ambrose are untrusting dogs, and compares it to his performance in the Marine 5 to Tom Cruise in The Mummy, which Maurice explains was doomed to fail because Hollywood has no original ideas. They just reboot old franchises, and therefore Rollins has no original bone in his body, and he's just trying to revive The Shield. The Shield is now the Mummy of the WWE.
That's kind of true, yeah.
And they are original. They are the A-list. And Miz gives this rallying speech for Dallas and Axel and says that their opponents are a box office bomb waiting to happen.
I thought it was a pretty awesome pep talk from The Miz here. Like, really,
Well, it wasn't Paul Heyman, but it was something.
I mean, I think this Miz Taraj thing kind of has potential, but like... They've yet to build the personalities of Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas right now. They might as well just kind of be like accessories in the background. Like they're
That's what they are.
I guess so. But I feel like if you're going to try to build a stable, I think everybody should have
A role.
A role, as part of the dynamic between them. And they haven't really formed that chemistry yet between the four.
Yeah, they do. They just do a lackadaisical job at times of just giving anything to some of these guys. Like you look at Bo Dallas. Look how he's dressed now. Like I want to see what this character does on a Wednesday night.
Sure.
What's this guy doing during the week? Give me something that I know about this character other than he shows up Monday nights and stands there.
Like he could be the lackey who gets coffee for them, or like I don't know, just something. They kind of started with Curtis Axel. Like talking about how like he's gonna be rich now, he's gonna be a millionaire now because of the Miz. I don't know. I think there is potential though, because like they're all different enough that I think each can kind of play a different role.
Sure, just give them some vignettes, give them something. Just take these guys and give us some. What are they doing during the week? Give us some like ideas of like who these characters are. They announced a Miz TV segment for next week with Jason Jordan as the guest and the three-way with Reigns, Strowman, and Joe. And then we saw a shot of Wale in the crowd with the $1 Million Championship.
Yeah, maybe here promoting the MLW One Shot.
Yeah, he was nothing subliminal here. Didn't get a Ricochet Shane Strickland mention or anything. And the main event was Rollins and Ambrose against Miz, Axel, and Dallas. Cesaro and Sheamus said, what the hell, we've got nothing else going on. Let's stick around and watch this too, as they showed them in the back. I don't know who they were scouting here.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, I
totally missed that.
They showed them in the back watching this match.
Why would they watch this?
I have no idea. Like, unless any of these teams are going for the belts anytime soon.
They have nothing to do with this.
Nothing.
Unless like Rollins and Ambrose are teaming up, but there's no.
Maybe they felt guilty for flying these guys all the way to Washington for this show that they had nothing to do with.
So, maybe that's the tag team program, Rollins and Ambrose. But, I mean, The Miz is involved. What am I saying? Never mind.
After watching this, I would have no issue if that was a detour and you could have the Hardys and Revival and you could do Rollins and Ambrose going for the tag titles. I would have no issue with that.
What happens to The Miz?
The Miz can find another program. There are guys that are around.
Yeah.
I'm not as concerned about the Miz
Me neither.
having a big program for SummerSlam. He can do anything.
He can do Miz TV.
You could do a 6-man with Miz, Axel, and Dallas against pick your 3. You know what? I'm trying to think of any guys that are just around with no real program, but none are coming to me. Graves asks, this was interesting. He asked, because they're talking about how Ambrose just can't trust Rollins. Cole's saying, it's been over 3 years. Rollins is a different guy now. Graves asks Booker if Stevie Ray ever forgave Booker for stealing the spotlight. And Booker says Stevie gave him the spotlight, but then notes that Stevie Ray and him did not speak for 5 years, which is a true story. And there was, I think this was 2011, and we had Booker T on, and Mouth asked him a question about Stevie Ray, because this was during a time period when Stevie Ray would listen to our show and he'd call in every now and then. And Mouth mentioned this, and Booker, because we didn't know that these two were not talking to one another, and Booker says, well, we haven't been talking to one another, but if you hear from him, tell him to give me a call. He's got a new grandson or granddaughter, whichever, or sorry, a nephew or niece. And yeah, it was just really interesting to hear. And then he just subtly brought it up here that these two didn't talk to each other. And they brought it up in the Hall of Fame speech too, I think, that they had their issues. Ambrose and Rollins cleared the ring. Miz bails to the floor during the break. They come back. They've got the advantage on Rollins for a long sequence. Lots of tags here by the Miztourage. Miz hits his it kicks. Ambrose rallies the crowd for Rollins. Big reaction to the hot tag. Ambrose is in, attacks Dallas and Axel, knocks Miz off the apron and follows with a pescado. It's a pendulum elbow to Dallas, and then an elbow off the top. Axel then takes Rollins to the floor, runs him into the barricade. Miz makes the blind tag, hits Ambrose from behind with the skull-crushing finale, but Rollins makes the save. Dallas gets nailed going into the rope. This was very similar to the Enzo injury, where Bo ran at Rollins, who sidestepped, and Bo just nailed his face off of the ropes. I watched this back, and this looked not as bad as the Enzo one, but not great. And he was down on the floor. The Miztourage is with him, and Rollins and Ambrose hit a double suicide dive. Skull-crushing finale is stopped with a Rollins springboard knee, which allows Ambrose to hit the dirty deeds and win the match. 17 minutes and 21 seconds, and I would say from the hot tag onward to Ambrose, really strong.
Yeah, I thought so. I think Ambrose and Rollins, obviously, they worked really well together, and The Miz was great too. You know what? And I thought Dallas and Axel were great in ring as well. I feel like those two don't get enough time to really perform on a big stage, and it was kind of nice to see them get this spotlight for once. I think it was a pretty good main event. The post-match was probably the most interesting portion of it, though.
Well, it was Ambrose and Rollins hugged briefly.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know if they were supposed to.
Yeah, that kind of
the hug almost
that shouldn't have been there.
Ruined it. Yeah.
Yeah, because then Rollins put his fist out, like the Shield deal.
Yeah.
And Ambrose just stared at it and he left after embracing this guy.
Yeah.
Maybe having their house show routine down to pat.
Yeah.
And then he just left, and it was supposed to be this dramatic, are they going to be on the same page or not?
It was Ambrose being really psyched about the working together, like really psyched about how successful they were winning the match. And then like Rollins really wants to celebrate, and Ambrose comes to his senses and says, "Oh yeah, I'm still supposed to hate you."
Yeah. Which,
Goodbye.
I mean, I don't even mind. Like, if the hug was not supposed to happen, whatever. Like, that's totally something you could, like, Ambrose got caught up in the moment of this guy who was his brother. And then came back to his senses. Like, it totally could have been planned that way anyway, but they don't typically
But they just
go that
hugged
deep.
and let each other go. And then, because a hug, like we know this, a hug is a bigger deal than a fist bump. You know what I mean? If you're willing to hug a guy, you should certainly be willing to fist bump him.
I don't think you've ever fist bumped me.
Here's the first. Come on.
Is this where I leave? And then next week?
Forget it. All right, we will not fist bump.
I like the match, and this Ambrose Rollins thing, while the whole reunion thing wasn't really all that captivating to me at the start, it's something for these two.
Definitely.
It's something, and it's the most I've kind of been into an Ambrose thing tonight than I have been in like a year.
It's a slow build towards a potential Shield reunion, and I think in a over-the-top, kind of really cheesy pro wrestling way, I think they're doing a good job of acting it out.
So I felt from the start of this whole tease that they were going to keep teasing and teasing and teasing this, and it's going to be Rollins apologizing and just trying to get Ambrose to trust him again.
Yeah. And then
finally does,
Yeah.
and Ambrose kills him. And it's Ambrose turning.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. And it's Ambrose's turn.
Yeah.
He finally lures in Rollins, and he gets his payback on him. And this is the Ambrose turn at the end of this, who could very much use a turn.
Yeah, very possible. I think you can kind of go either way.
I just feel we've been there with Rollins as a
True,
heel.
we have.
We've been there. We've done that. And, arson aside, I think Rollins is... I mean, his style, too, in the ring, it's so much better.
Arson, was that him?
Well, the 2K deal.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Randy.
No,
That's the other arsonist.
Got to get our arson
we got a couple of them.
characters out there. I think that finally getting the audience cares about tonight showed that the audience does care about this.
True.
And to tease it and then finally Ambrose embraces him and then just attacks him.
I think they need to do more work to kind of really build the sympathy for Rollins.
This shouldn't be next week.
Yeah.
This should be
if they did this next week, then it'd just be.
It's the whole reason is make people want it first and then take it away from them.
But I feel like they still have a ways to go in order to redeem Seth Rollins. And to me, Rollins still comes across like a guy who could turn at any second. You know what I mean? He doesn't seem like somebody who's that likable right now.
If they did a really long, 5-6 weeks dedicated to this, by the end of this, you could finally have sympathy on Seth Rollins if the guy turned on him, and have a real babyface in Rollins and a real heel in Ambrose if people care.
I think what they could do is they can get Renee involved and have Renee be in trouble, and Seth comes out to save her. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
And then
Mega powers.
Yeah. And then but then then you can't really turn Dean, can you? If you're establishing Renee. Anyway, whatever. We're thinking too much.
I think there's options of where they can go with this that could be beneficial to both.
So, do you think Roman gets involved in this?
No, I don't. I don't think he's needed for this. I think that eventual, the three of them, that's something you can do way down the road at a more convenient time, because it's not at the moment. To detour Roman, Roman's doing fine right now. He doesn't need this at the moment. There will be a time when that'll be something you can go to. Now's not that time. That was Raw. I thought overall, I thought this was a good show.
I watched this in real time.
I did too.
I didn't think it was all that interesting.
Oh,
you know what I mean? I would say
I mean, this was not a great show, but
You know?
I didn't think this was a bad show.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder. I wonder how much of this was worth spending 3 hours on.
Well, I mean, I feel the SummerSlam direction is kind of taking form.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
a
know.
lot of the segments are kind of geared towards.
But I guess at the end of the 3 hours, do I feel like I got a substantial build towards SummerSlam? I feel like this was a missable show. A lot of the events that, in terms of the overall storyline towards SummerSlam, were just very minuscule. They were tiny. For the main event, it was just the announcement of the four-way, and that was it. You know?
Do you know what Sunday was? July 23rd?
Battleground.
It was Battleground. It was also the 5-year anniversary of Raw moving to 3 hours.
5 years?
5 years.
Oh my God.
And 780 hours later,
What have I done with my life?
we are here.
So 780 hours?
780 Raw hours.
So 780 divided by 24. That's a month.
Overall, we watched.
That's an extra month I've lost out of my life to this extra hour of Raw.
Over the course of 5 years, though, that does sound like a lot.
We're going to be
but
on our deathbed wishing we had one more month. And this month.
That's only Raw way. That doesn't count anything else.
Fuck.
Pay-per-views, SmackDown, Impact.
What are we doing?
Well, everybody. That is going to wrap it up for us.
Yeah, but of course we'll have your feedback and a lot more in the audio version of this show.
Oh, yeah. We have lots to discuss.
Yes.
So that is it. Thank you for tuning in, and drive home safely.
Pro Wrestling Tees trivia question. Remember.